Hello everybody and welcome back to a bit of Arid Animal Pack coverage. So the little lookout mission that they were doing on the social media platforms such as Twitter, Instagram, all that, um, showing all 8 animals for the Arid Animal Pack has finished today. And so let's take a look through the animals and yes, express our thoughts. So the first animal is the Dama Gazelle, or specifically the subspecies of which in the game is the Gazelle. Um, it was not really well received by its inclusion when the antelope slot was already filled by the Addax, but yeah, so they are a critically endangered species from North Africa, and Planet Zoo's main focus has primarily been on conservation. And so adding rarer animals is a good thing because it gives them a bit more attention, and some of these lesser known species that are highly threatened, yeah, getting them in the game exposes more people to their problems. But personally, I actually love the Dama Gazelle. I think its design is fantastic. Very beautiful horns, the white face, the red neck, yeah, all of it's pretty good, and you can see the males, the females, and the calves. So you got the male in the front here. Then in the back you can see a female with a calf. So I think it's that the male has the bigger, thicker horns that curl at the back. Females have smaller, spindly horns, and the calves have no horns. But yeah, let me know what you think of the Dama Gazelle. But let's compare it to its real life counterpart. So of course, the real animal has a bit more horn variation, and this is something that Planet Zoo should definitely add. Its horn variation, and we'll see that with another species that was shown for the pack. Um, but yeah, the pattern variation is different as well, but of course that can be changed in Planet Zoo as well. So this is only one pattern that we're seeing right here. But overall, the design is pretty accurate. Like I know gazelles have a sort of air sac at their nose that seems to be a bit distinct there on the real life animal. And you can kind of see it on the Planet Zoo one, but not as distinct. But yeah, overall, the design is pretty much accurate, nigh on perfect. That is my opinion on the Dama Gazelle. The next animal that was shown was the Somali Wild Ass. So this is our third equine. So we have the plain zebra already and the Przewalski's Wild Horse with the conservation pack. Now we have the Somali Wild Ass, which is our first donkey. So the Somali Wild Ass is critically endangered and is the last of the African Wild Ass genus that can be confirmed to be still alive. So the other one was the Nubian Wild Ass, which is unknown as to whether it's still alive or not. But the Somali wild ass is the most prevalent in captivity by a long shot. And yeah, these guys will be really good for your safari parks, and many of the animals in here will be. But looking at the real animal, again, it's pretty much accurate to it. Like, it looks just like it. Like, the ears would, of course, not be perked up all the time. They would move around a bit. So you can see with the individual on the left is it's grazing and the ears are out. But we know that ear rotation is something that does happen in Planet Zoo, so we can expect that. And you've got the iconic stripes of the African wild ass on the legs there, on both individuals here, and the dark grey back all the way to the head. And of course the white nose. But yeah, African wild ass is pretty much perfect. I also love the detail of the vein on the belly. You can see that pretty distinct there. But yeah, Somali Wild Ass is probably one of my favorite inclusions in the pack. Next, we have the flagship, the Dromedary Camel. So this is an animal that has had scenery in the game for as long as the game's been out. We've had a camel sign in the base game for a very long time, and we got, I think, 2 more in the Africa pack. But now we finally got the Dromedary Camel as an animal to be used in the game. And yeah, it's photorealistic. Like it looks just like the real life counterpart. I'll just cut to that slide now. Yeah, you can see you got the vein on the side. It's fairly indistinct, but you can see that along the belly. The head looks right. The hump is perfect. Like there is hump variation depending on the nutrition of an individual. You got the knobbly knees of the camel, and yeah, the dromedary camel it's perfect. Like it's going to be cool to look at the variations in color that they have because you saw in the trailer that there was one that had like a white bit of coloration. I wonder if we'll get a yellow camel like on the left picture. We'll have to wait and see, but the pack is not too far out, so we will certainly have a look at that when we showcase the pack when it comes out. Next, we have probably my most anticipated animal of the pack, the black rhinoceros. Now, it is another rhino, but I love black rhinos, and they are a fantastic animal, and it is no exception with Planet Zoo. Like, this animal is magnificent. It is a exceptional model for the black rhinoceros. Now, many people could say the horns aren't right, but there isn't really much horn variation. That could be something that Frontier plans to add in a future update. Please do it. I would love that. And we could get different horns for the rhinos because they're not all the same. So that is really the only problem with the black rhino is that you don't really get too much horn variation. But that is the same with the southern white and Indian rhino. And yeah, so you got the hook lip that separates the black rhino from others. And going over to the real life image here, so black rhinos were mostly named by the dark mud that coats their body most of the time. They're often pretty brown in coloration. You can see on the Planet Zoo model, it is somewhat grey, and there are grey individuals like the eastern black rhinoceros, which is what this Planet Zoo black rhino is believed to have been based off of. So that is the image I found. They are pretty similar. And this rhino is currently holding its head a little bit lower, but if it holds its head up, you can really see the black rhino characteristics because their head sits higher than the white rhino because they are a browser. White rhinos are grazers, so that is one of the anatomical differences between the two. So black rhinos hold their head higher to browse on trees, and that hook lip is used for bringing in branches to the mouth. And yeah, white rhinos have that large square mouth for grazing, and they hold their head a bit lower. So that is just a difference that I would like to point out with the two. But overall, black rhino, pretty much perfect. Like it looks fantastic. And I love the little details on the horns. I don't know, I can't really see that right now because the image is a bit far away. But when I've gone closer looks, it's got these nice little grooves in the horn, which is just a nice little detail. Moving on to the Addax, we have finally got the Addax. Zoo Tycoon 2 is almost here. Yeah, so Addax are an iconic species of North African antelope that is fairly rare in the wild. They're another critically endangered species. With their iconic spiral horns and white face mask, the Addax really stands out among them. It's also pretty small. I looked at a size chart and the Addax is surprisingly smaller than the scimitar horned oryx. Like, it's a lot smaller. It's not even taller than a human being, which is something I wasn't expecting. Many antelopes seem to be quite large, especially the spiral-horned antelopes, but not in the Addax's case. I guess being a larger animal in the desert doesn't really help you too much. But one cool thing I learnt about the Addax is that their coat will change depending on the season. So in the summer, it's lighter and whiter to reflect the sun and keep the body cool. Then the winter, it gets thicker and more brown to absorb more heat, keep the animal warm. Because deserts can get surprisingly cold. And yeah, that's just one of the many adaptations Addax evolved to have to be a successful crosser of the desert. So just comparing the real life and in-game Addax, this one's probably a bit dusty, so that's why the horns are a bit grey. And the Addax in the game is quite clean, let's say. And this one, of course, is quite white, but this is somewhat of a sunset look. So if we were to look at the Addax in broad daylight, which we haven't really gone to look at yet, it's really just been in a sunrise, sunset appearance, but we haven't had top level sunlight going down, so we haven't had a midday look, let's say. The white face mask is pretty much good. The darker snouts, the brown patch on their forehead, the knees, everything about the Addax is pretty much perfect. Like, I don't have any complaints personally, so yeah. And there's a bit of horn variation between the males and the females, so that is something that can be considered. But these are two males, and they look perfect. Moving on to the sand cat, our third last animal of the video. So they're a small cat from North Africa and Saudi Arabia. So you've got two subspecies, the Saharan and the Arabian. Looking at this animal, it is probably the Arabian sand cat specifically, but you could sort of move them in between because they are subspecies, not the whole species. We've just gone sand cat in general terms. And it looks great. I really like the sand cat. I've heard many people say that the eyes could be a bit closer together, but looking at it a fair few more times, I can somewhat look past it. Like, it's not that bad. But if the eyes were to be brought a little bit closer, I think it would look pretty good. And people say the head looks too big, but it could just be the angle. But unlike many of the other animals, we get a look at the babies. So we got two little kittens right there. One of the main things people are wondering is the sandcat going to use the burrow? I would say it would, because it is such a small animal that living in a burrow in the desert is kind of a good idea. So I hope the sandcat has been given the burrow, just like the red fox and other small animals in the game have. But we'll have to wait and see. Yeah, so comparing it, the eyes, looking at this individual particularly, the eyes could be a little bit closer. Like, there's a bit of eye variation in sandcats. This one on the left has a bit of blue, but this one's slightly more yellow or green. Like, the eyes could be a bit more green. That is something else people have been saying. But there is a bit of color variation. Like, we don't have the distinct stripes on the left individual that we do on this one. So, like, on the legs you've got them, but on the back there would probably be some stripe variation. So, yeah. But so that's the sand cat. Moving on to the desert horned viper, and it looked great. Like, the detail is fantastic. Like, look at the eyes. The eyes are very well made. The horns as well. It's very well made, and I mean, people have been saying that it's not that good, and like, I can kind of see where they're coming from. Like, if we go to this image, but I don't really have a problem with it personally. Like, it looks fine. Like, it looks like a Saharan desert horned viper. I mean, they're the same animal. So it's not that bad. Like, yeah. So I don't really have too much to say on the Saharan. I can technically say it, the desert horned viper, because it's an exhibit animal, regular exhibit animal, and they don't really do too much right now. So we're not going to get too much action from it, but it is a cool animal to see in the game. But many people would prefer the Budrigar or just something else that would be a bit more interesting, particularly for the walkthrough exhibits. And I think Budrigars from Australia would have been fantastic, as they are desert specialists. But getting another snake is a good thing because we haven't had one for 4 years. You haven't had a snake since the base game. So this is a nice step in the right direction, but if we were to get more reptiles that aren't walkthrough, we could probably get them in a reptile house pack. Like, that would be a good way to get a few more quintessential reptiles and save main DLCs for walkthrough exhibit animals like birds and bats and other interesting animals that they could put in there. But yeah, let me know what you think of the Saharan/desert horned viper. And lastly, but not least, we have the African crested porcupine. It has been the second most requested animal in Plant Zoo for a long time, just sitting behind the Tasmanian devil. Still waiting on that one. But we finally have it, and Yeah, it looks fantastic. Like, I cannot deny that. Look at it. Spread its quills, its mohawk. Some people are saying that the mohawk isn't as large as it should be, but I think it looks fine. But because like hair grows with age with porcupines, because they don't exactly get it cut. So when you got a really impressive crest on a crested porcupine, it's mostly to do with how old that animal is. And same with the quills. Like, there's a pretty well-known image that I have used here, which shows a crest with full extent, and these longer quills just sticking out of um, the main set. So this could be an older porcupine than what's shown in the game. But overall, it is pretty much spot on. Like, it looks fantastic. African crested porcupine finally got it. But yeah, that is all the animals for the Arid Animal Pack. Many people say it's underwhelming, and I can see where you're coming from. But I actually like all the animals in this pack. Desert Horn Viper I'm probably not going to use too much, but every single other animal I'm going to use in some capacity. Like, African Crested Porcupine's going to be in a lot of zoos that I could build. Dromedary Camel as well. Addax. Somali Wild Ass. Dama Gazelle could even be used quite prevalently. And the Sand Cat, I can use that in a nocturnal house or a desert house. There are many possibilities with many of the animals in this pack. I mean, Desert Horn Viper could go in a reptile house as well, but overall, it's the habitat animals that are the ones that can be used the best here, and I think you can all agree. But the pack is out in just a couple of days, so I will see you then for the release of the Arid Animal Pack. If you enjoyed this video, do leave a like and subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.